Her whole world revolved around a mat on a floor in a dojo where only men were once allowed to engage in a practice descended from an ancient art thousands of years old, the art of the gentle way, a practice designed to perfect the dance between body, mind, and spirit. She studied the gentle way. Some say she was born to it. She learned it. She lived it. She loved it. She dedicated her whole life to teaching it. She excelled in the art of her ancestors far beyond many who had come before or after her. But for 30 years, she was denied her proper place on the mat as a grand master. There were many who were younger, bigger, and stronger who had reached the pinnacle way before her. Why? Some had asked. Because she is a woman, they answered. Outraged by this response, many came to her defense and challenged a status quo that had been set in stone for over 100 years. They were her peers, her students, and her friends, and they would not be silenced. They went to the mat for her, grappling with centuries of sexist and patriarchal customs that had kept her in her place for far too long. And when they emerged victorious, she had become the first and only woman in the history of the art of the gentle way to reach the top of the mountain. Humbled and grateful to all those who had supported her journey, she bowed, and as she donned her much-deserved red belt, she graced those on the mat with a smile that could light up a room. And then she went back to her life's work, teaching the gentle way.
You've planted your dreams. It's time to release. No more fear. No more fear. Surrender in her. Trust you won't fall. Time to fly. Time to fly.
Hi, hello, and welcome to the Aquitaine Project, a podcast that invites you to step into the light of some pretty remarkable women and learn a little, grow a little, laugh a little, and shine a lot. I'm Marlo Mead, your host, guide, and fellow traveler, on a journey where together we draw upon the lessons, wisdom, and experiences of women past and present, women I affectionately call my bright lighters. On the podcast, I'll bring to light their stories, voices, and legacies, inspiring and challenging each of us to become bright lighters in our own right. For me, these women transcend time, teaching us lessons we can use in our own lives each and every day, shining their light from different centuries, cultures, and corners of the earth. They light the way, making it possible for each of us to create our own light and shine it forward. So, if you're ready to meet this week's awesome bright lighter, stick around.
Free your soul.
What does it mean to become a master of one's craft, to reach the pinnacle of your profession? For me, it has always meant a certain level of dedication and commitment that requires continuous study, practice, and sacrifice. Many people in American culture refer to this as honing your skills or honing your craft, and it is usually associated with a person's business or professional pursuits. In Japan, the term is shokunin, which in general translation means craftsman or artisan. It also means mastery of one's profession, but there is a deeper meaning. For the Japanese, shokunin is a way of life, a state of being and relating to the world. The goal is not merely to become the best at what you do, but to also do what you do for the joy of it, to do it mindfully, carefully, beautifully, and to the very best of your ability. For Keiko Fukuda, who epitomized shokunin kishitsu, the craftsman spirit, this meant dedicating her life to one thing and one thing only, the martial art known as Judo. Weighing in at 100 pounds, standing 4 feet 11 inches tall, and having reached the age of 100 years old, this episode's Bright Lighter teaches us no matter our profession or craft, the journey to mastery is a lifelong endeavor that needs to become part of who we are. It cannot be reached overnight or without paying our dues and learning from those who have made it further along the journey than we have. It will take patience, persistence, and joy in all things we discover along the way. The truth is, mastery of one's craft is not a destination at all. You cannot reach it. You can only reach for it. It is an ideal of perfection that leads us step by step on a journey that keeps us searching for ways to be better, to do better, professionally, personally, and humanitarily. It is a journey that will require us to dig deep and develop shokunin kishitsu, our own craftsman spirit. To better understand Keiko Fukuda's story requires a brief history on the founding of Judo, so stick with me. The history of Eastern martial arts is shrouded in mystery and legend. What most Westerners know is based on old Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, or Jackie Chan movies. It is generally accepted that the martial arts developed its roots in ancient China among the monks who used weaponless fighting techniques to protect themselves. Remember the TV series Kung Fu? When you can take the pebble from my hand, it will be time for you to leave. Wow, I loved that show. As the martial arts spread to Japan, they were refined by the samurai, who practiced and mastered various forms of martial arts, including jujitsu, which means the gentle art. Jujitsu is the only fighting style based on weaponless self-defense. It is recorded that by the mid-1800s, more than 700 jujitsu systems had been developed. In 1882, Master Kano Jigoro, regarded as the father of Judo, established the Kodokan, the school to learn the way or path, a 12-mat training facility located in a Buddhist temple in Ueno, Japan. Building upon his training and the teachings of his 3 jujitsu masters, Kano integrated the best elements of ancient martial arts with a new philosophical approach into what is known today as Kodokan Judo. Judo, which means the gentle way, became a blend of fighting techniques derived from the ancient art of jujitsu used to attack or defend using nothing but one's body. Kano's teachings focused on the principles of maximum efficiency, minimum effort, and mutual welfare and benefit. Master Kano believed Judo could be used to strengthen the body by practicing attack and defense, develop personality by training the mind, and finally, he believed Judo could create a connection between art, skill, and being of service to one's society. To complete the transition from jujitsu to judo, Kano added a strict code of ethics and humanitarian philosophy to his newly created system. Kodokan instructors and students were expected from the very beginning to be outstanding examples of good character and honest conduct. Any hand-to-hand combat outside of the dojo, public demonstrations for profit, or any behavior that might bring shame to the school could lead to suspension or expulsion from the Kodokan. For Master Kano, Judo was not just a way to defend oneself, it was a way of life. Over the next 30 years, Judo gained greater acceptance in Japan and began spreading around the world. Between 1912 and 1952, several Japanese experts immigrated to other continents, spreading Judo teachings, and as Judo spread throughout the Western world, it slowly turned into the form of a sport, eventually gaining popularity in world and regional games, and being included in the 1964 Olympic Games. According to the International Judo Federation, today there are more than 20 million Judokan, practitioners of Judo, around the world. Okay, I have to tell you a little bit more about the Kodokan, the first school of Judo, because it's important to Keiko's story. The Kodokan Judo Institute is the headquarters of the worldwide judo community and issues the Dan or ranking system of black belts, which are used to represent students who have moved on to the higher levels of judo and indicate the level of a person's ability, skill, and mastery of judo's physical, mental, and philosophical teachings. Many judoka around the world become Kodokan members and have their ranks registered with the Kodokan. Keep this in mind as we learn more about Keiko's story. Now that you know more about the history of Judo than you ever thought you would, let's get into the life and times of Keiko Fukuda. Keiko's journey began in 1935 when, at the age of 21, she entered into the male-dominated world of Judo. When most young Japanese women were learning the ways of flower arranging, formal tea ceremony, and brush riding, she began her studies as only one of 24 women training at the Kodokan, the original school of judo training. Judo founder Kano had personally invited Keiko to join the Kodokan due to her martial arts lineage and out of deep respect for her grandfather. This was a very progressive gesture for the time, considering the male-dominated culture of martial arts. Keiko's grandfather, Fukuda Hashinosuke, had been a samurai and master of Tenjin Shinryu Jiu-Jitsu. He was also Kano Jigoro's first jiu-jitsu master. Her family approved of her taking judo only because she might find a suitable husband on the mat. But, to their dismay, Keiko fell in love with judo, not a judo master. She never knew her grandfather, but in later accounts of her life, she recalled feeling a very strong connection to him through judo. Under Master Kano's teaching and through constant training and dedication, by 1937, Keiko had become a judo instructor for the women's section of the Kodokan. It was at this point in her life, at the young age of 23, she was faced with making a very serious decision, one that would ultimately dictate her future. Master Kano had selected Keiko and a few other women judo instructors, his best female students, and asked them to dedicate their lives to spreading judo throughout the world. Relying on her independent and courageous spirit, Keiko Fukuda decided to go against tradition and not get married. She realized that, as a married woman, any possible husband would ask or demand that she give up practicing judo, and this was not part of her plans. Keiko had been inspired by Master Kano to spread women's judo around the world. This, she believed, was her true calling. So, judo became her life partner. As you can imagine, her family was outraged. But she held true to her promise, and while the other women who made the promise would continue to teach judo as well, Keiko would be the only one to leave her home in Japan to spread judo throughout the world. During the early years of her training and teaching and learning to navigate the male-dominated sport, she developed her personal motto, "Be gentle, kind, and beautiful, yet firm and strong, both mentally and physically." She would become the very embodiment of these words in the dojo as a student and as a teacher. I imagine for those of us unfamiliar with judo, it may be hard to reconcile the words gentle and beautiful with a sport in which we see people flying through the air and being slammed to the ground on mats. Keiko Fukuda would say, "The goal of judo is to be gentle on the outside and strong on the inside." Throughout World War II, she continued training and teaching judo. In 1953, she had achieved the 5th Dan, or 5th degree black belt, and was among the most senior female judoka in the world. For the next 20 years, despite all of her efforts and her commitment on a national and international level to the advancement of women's judo, she would remain at 5th degree black belt. That same year, she had been invited to the United States by a judo club from Oakland, California, and ended up staying in the U.S. for almost 2 years, after which she returned to Tokyo. In the following years, she made several teaching trips to bring women's judo to New Zealand, Australia, the Philippines, and Canada. In 1966, she moved to California and began teaching and giving seminars around the state. By 1973, she had opened San Francisco's Women's Judo Club, where she taught for decades. In 1974, Keiko organized the first judo training camp exclusively dedicated to women. She wrote books, including Born for the Mat, a Kodokan kata textbook for women, taught around the world, and created a kata championship that's one of the art's most prestigious events, but she had still not advanced past the 5th degree black belt. Unfair and totally sexist, you say? Absolutely. It's important to understand that when Keiko Fukuda began judo, the Kodokan had set up a separate ranking system for women, recognizing only 5 degrees of black belt. No matter how skillful one was, the rule was ironclad. Meanwhile, since 1926, men had been able to attain the rank of 9th degree. For decades, the Kodokan refused to upgrade the ranking system for women. Behind the scenes, beginning in the late 1960s, enormous pressure was exerted on the Kodokan to update the system, primarily on behalf of Keiko Fukuda. It was outrageous that male judoka who were decades junior to her now outranked her. The pressure was applied in a variety of ways. Some Japanese judo masters tried to be gracious and diplomatic. Some Westerners were blunt about it. But one of Keiko Fukuda's former students and lifelong friends, Shelley Fernandez, happened to be president of the National Organization of Women, a very popular feminist group in San Francisco. Fernandez decided to organize a petition, and support letters for Keiko were collected and sent to the Kodokan to report the anomaly and to ask that Sensei Fukuda be promoted to 6th degree black belt. The Kodokan refused to give in until finally, threatened with international embarrassment, it relented. Keiko Fukuda was promoted to 6th Dan. It had taken 29 years for her promotion. Imagine working diligently your entire life and not being officially recognized for your many, many accomplishments. That would be a very large pill for most people to swallow, but Keiko just continued on with her life's work. Humbly, quietly, relentlessly, empowering women to defend themselves against violence. She taught groups of nurses self-defense after a serial rapist had attacked several nurses at the University of California, San Francisco, and also conducted a special class for elderly women who were victims of physical abuse. For decades, she taught judo at Mills College, San Francisco City College, and all over the world, from Australia to Europe to the Middle East. And all the while, she remained true to her motto, gentle, kind, and beautiful. In 1994, 19 years since her last promotion, she became the first woman to be awarded a rare red belt of the 8th Dan by the Kodokan. In 2001, the United States Judo Federation promoted her to 9th Dan, red belt, for her lifelong contribution to the art of judo. 5 years later, on January 8, 2006, at its annual New Year's celebration, the Kodokan followed the lead of the United States Judo Federation, also promoting Master Fukuda to the rank of 9th Dan, making Keiko the highest-ranked female judoka in the world. And finally, on July 28, 2011, the Promotion Board of USA Judo awarded Grand Master Fukuda the rank of 10th Dan. For 40 years, Sensei Fukuda, as she was known to her students, taught judo to women all around the world. Well into her 90s, she continued to teach judo 3 times a week, host the annual Fukuda Invitational Kata Championships, and teach at the annual Joshi Judo Camp. Suffering from Parkinson's disease, arthritis in every joint, having survived a triple bypass and 2 heart attacks, she even outlived 2 of her doctors. She continued to inspire others in the ancient art of self-defense. Grandmaster Keiko Fukuda had had a hold on judo for almost 80 years. She was and is the top female judo master ever. She garnered worldwide fame, recognition, and countless international awards during her career. Too many awards, she would insist. Yet, in all those years, Keiko never complained about the treatment she got from the Kodokan. She could have reminded them of her lineage as the last surviving student of Master Kano. She could have pointed to her many accomplishments and awards. She could have highlighted the clinics she taught, the championships she founded, the scholarships she provided, but she did none of these things. Keiko Fukuda went about following the way of Judo, the gentle way. She focused on her art right up until the day she died, February 9th, 2013. She was 100 years old, according to Japanese tradition. Her motto, be gentle, kind, and beautiful, yet firm and strong, both mentally and physically, are truly words to live by and serve as a roadmap on our journey to becoming masters of our own crafts. Grandmaster Keiko Fukuda was a legendary woman who spent a lifetime cultivating the craftsman spirit and dedicating her life to learning, teaching, loving, and sharing Judo with the world. How can we learn her lessons and embody our own craftsman spirit? Let's find out. If you've ever seen the movie The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise's character, Captain Nathan Algren, makes a point of mentioning, from the moment they wake, they, the samurai, dedicate themselves to the perfection of whatever it is that they pursue. The samurai's shokunin kishitsu gives them absolute pride in whatever profession, art, or fun they may partake in because they do it to the best of their ability. I love this part in the movie. It brings home for me the beauty of taking pride in whatever I'm doing or working on and doing a thing to the best of my ability, no matter what that thing is. Shokunin kishitsu translates literally to craftsman spirit. The Japanese believe that there is no shame in any profession as long as you take pride and care in your work. Custodians, electricians, and all other blue-collar jobs are highly respected in Japanese culture because of the craftsman spirit. Shokunin isn't a title or a destination, but it's a way of life. It's the embodiment of certain attitudes that not only bring about mastery, but deep contentment for your work and the life you've built around it. By immersing ourselves in our work, our craft, our art, or even our fun, we become fully engaged in the journey of mastery. When we are fully engaged, we seek out ways to improve ourselves, our abilities, and our work. This holds true no matter what our occupation. You could be a teacher, a groundskeeper, a hotel maid, a musician, a cook, a CEO, a podcaster. It doesn't matter. What matters is when we embrace the craftsman spirit, we commit to the continual pursuit of mastery. Think of it this way. Before you can become a sculptor, you must learn to cut stone. Before you become a chef, you must learn to cook. Before you can become a judo master, you must dedicate your life to learning and practicing your art. Keiko Fukuda did not become a judo master overnight or even in a few years. It took her decades and a continuous process of learning and teaching and learning some more. Before we can become masters at what we do, like Keiko, we must first become a student of our art, our craft, our job, of any endeavor we take on. It is said that command of craft always precedes art. Apprentice, journeyman, master. And when we become one with the journey, we find our rhythm, our flow, which allows us to enjoy the steps along the way. Here are a few ideas that can help us along the journey to become a master at our own craft. 1. Have an emotional commitment to your chosen work. Do what you love or love what you do. It doesn't matter what the work is. What matters is you care about the work you are doing. If you are a teacher, are you invested in creating the best lesson plan possible for your students and delivering it in ways that resonate and inspire them to keep learning? If you're a doctor, are you totally committed to the health and well-being of your patients? As a podcaster, I choose women I am emotionally attached to on different levels. It's the only way I can tell their stories as honestly as possible. 2. Learn the skills required to master your craft. Never stop being curious. Researching and learning about the newest techniques, the best practices, industry breakthroughs, and advancements in your given field keep you engaged in the process of mastery. You don't get better at something if you aren't continuously seeking out new and better ways to do your job. For example, elite athletes, top business CEOs, and high performers in many professions seek out and work with coaches and mentors in their field in order to stay on top of their game. Elite performers, researchers say, must engage in deliberate practice, sustained, mindful efforts to develop the full range of abilities that success requires. But what about doctors? Take Dr. Atal Gawande, for example, an experienced surgeon with hundreds of surgeries under his belt. He was educated, skilled, and experienced, but believed he could get better at his craft. So, he invited one of his favorite medical school instructors to observe him in the operating room. He was nervous. After all, it was his operating room and he had been performing surgery for years. But he felt he could improve his skills by having a coach who could provide him with objective and unbiased feedback. And it worked. His surgeries became more precise. Every attention to detail was improved. He became a better surgeon. As he states in his TED Talks and in the 2011 New Yorker article that features his coaching journey, it's not how good you are now, it's how good you're going to be that really matters. 3. The shokunin values a strong work ethic because that's the only way to get better every day. Becoming intentional about our actions and habits and eliminating distractions so our work gets 100% of our focus. I honestly struggle with this one. There are times when I am totally dialed into what I'm doing. It's fun and effortless and I love it, like bright lighter research, for instance. Then there are times when I really want to go watch my favorite TV show, so I set aside what I should be doing in favor of what I want to be doing. How many of you are nodding your heads in agreement right now? Developing the Craftsman discipline to stay focused is one thing I continuously try to work on. I try to keep in mind some days will be harder than others, but showing up to do the work on such days is the mark of a true master. 4. Be patient. Mastery is not a quick win. It takes time. It can take baby steps every single day. When you're on the path to mastery, you may not improve by leaps and bounds, but you are never not improving. I love that. Have you ever heard of the 10,000-hour rule, which was popularized in the 1970s by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers? The rule goes like this. It takes 10,000 hours of intense practice to achieve mastery of complex skills and materials, such as playing the violin. More recent studies of the 10,000-hour rule has expanded this theory to include not just repetition, but focuses on deliberate action with constant feedback as necessary components to achieving mastery of a specific skill or function. Keiko Fukuda spent untold hours in deliberate practice of very precise Judo techniques under the tutelage of Master Kano and others as she advanced in her training. The feedback provided by her instructors allowed her to make necessary adjustments in her technique to gain the skill and knowledge required to reach the highest levels of her craft. Developing the patience and understanding to recognize that each step, each movement, each action must be focused and deliberate each and every time is a key factor in mastering our craft. If you want to see shokunin kishitsu in action, check out the movie Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's about one man's pursuit to master the art of sushi making. You can watch the movie free on YouTube. I've included the link on the episode page. This quote from the movie says it all. There is always a yearning to achieve more. I'll continue to climb, trying to reach the top, but no one knows where the top is. Even at my age, after decades of work, I don't think I've achieved perfection, but I feel ecstatic all day. I love making sushi. That, sisters, is the spirit of shokunin. All I did was judo. This was my marriage. This is when my life destiny was set. I just never imagined how long this road would be. When I imagine Keiko Fukuda, I see a tiny woman with thick black hair and a beautiful, gentle smile. She is dressed in a white Judo uniform with a red belt, a grand master of Judo and of life. In learning more about Master Keiko Fukuda, I've come to understand more about her promise to dedicate her life to the world of Judo and why she sacrificed so much to fulfill it. Keiko believed that Judo could bring about a better world, not only through the mental and physical confidence women can gain through learning self-defense, but through the cultivation of the singular habit of putting forth the necessary effort to do our best in our every endeavors. Through her life's work, she demonstrated an uncompromising passion for learning and teaching others. She shared with the world her personal journey of mastering her chosen craft. She mentored women from around the world, encouraging them to defend themselves, to love and respect themselves. Grand Master Fukuda shines a light on a path for all women willing to embrace their shokunin kishitsu. I, for one, am willing to follow that path. So, in honor of this wonderfully humble yet powerful bright lighter, let's challenge ourselves to be gentle, kind, and beautiful, yet firm and strong, both mentally and physically, in everything we set out to do. Why I love this woman. One of my greatest joys as the host of the Aquitaine Project is learning about, getting to know, and sharing with you some incredible women. I must thank my husband for introducing me to Keiko Fukuda's story, though. Thank you, husband. Keiko is an inspiration on multiple levels. Her courage to find her place in the male-dominated world of Judo, specifically at a time when women were usually excluded from such endeavors. Her persistence to keep training and teaching during and after World War II because her students counted on her. Her dedication to blazing a trail for women in Judo around the world and fulfilling her promise to her teacher, Master Kano, at deep personal sacrifice. She dedicated her life to her art, foregoing marriage and any hope of having children of her own. These things alone make her a truly amazing woman and someone to admire. But what I love about Master Keiko Fukuda is the way she dominated the field of Judo and life itself, while living her motto, be strong, be gentle, be beautiful. Her life's journey to master her craft and achieve what was once unachievable speaks to my soul in ways that make me question my own level of dedication to things I hold dear. Yet, at the same time, she inspires me to continually find ways to make whatever I do, podcasting, consulting, cooking, or creating the Aquitaine Project Sisterhood, better and better and better. Keiko Fukuda is the bright lighter who teaches me the joy of being strong, gentle, and beautiful as I discover my own shokunin kishitsu. To learn more about Grandmaster Keiko Fukuda's journey to mastering Judo, visit the Aquitaine Project website page at www.theaquitaineproject.com and click on her episode image. There you'll find links about Keiko and resources on discovering how to master your own craft, as well as a link to Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It is a must-watch, you guys. Don't forget to connect with me on the Aquitaine Project Podcast Facebook group or on Instagram at The Aquitaine Project. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Just search Marlo Mead and I'll pop up. You can also find the Aquitaine Project podcast on YouTube. Okay, my bright lighters, until next time, be strong, be gentle, be beautiful as you discover your own craftsman spirit.